And imagine that we are around that rotunda, right above it. That year, I was the president of the Kansas Followers, and I had just finished giving testimony. And as I was walking on that floor, a young teacher was leading a group of 6th and 7th graders by the rotunda. And the teacher looked at me and said, "What do we do next, sir?" Not wanting to waste the authority, I said, "Follow me." So I had them encircle the rotunda. And I said to the children, listen carefully. On behalf of children that are being forced to fight wars, on behalf of children that are being denied education, on behalf of children that are not allowed sufficient food to develop their bodies and their minds, on behalf of children that are not free, I would like for you at the count of 3, at the top of your lungs, to scream the word freedom. By this time, the teacher was looking at me because that wasn't in the agenda. But it was too late. Well, today, I'm going to ask you to do the same with me. I want our scream of freedom to go all the way to the dome, to bounce back and to echo through this building, because today, the Supreme Court ruled that equality in marriage should not be denied one because of their sexual orientation. Because yesterday, notwithstanding the efforts by many to deny medical insurance for a great number of Americans, 70,000 just in Kansas, the Supreme Court ruled the Obama law to be constitutional. Because, as counsel for Planned Parenthood, I can tell you, and for my good friend George Tillery, the bravest client I have ever represented, that was brutally assassinated by a domestic terrorist, because women deserve full access to reproductive health care. Because our nation is not a Christian nation. It's not a Jewish nation. It's not a Hindu nation. It is a nation of laws where each of us, by a matter of due process, deserves equal protection, equal dignity, and wherein together, no matter what one's religion or lack thereof, together, we make this American democratic experiment work. It doesn't matter. We are all human beings deserving equal justice, equal opportunity, regardless of the color of our eyes, regardless of the color of our skins, regardless of our country of origin. We are human beings deserving of full and equal protection under the laws of this country. Yeah. We can no longer tolerate the National Rifle Association, which is controlled by gun manufacturers, to push legislation which is causing the unnecessary death of thousands of Americans for their sick profit to control our government. For all of those reasons, and many more, I'm going to ask you to please stand with me. And I want this signal to be heard in the governor's office. I want this signal to be heard in the Senate and in the House. And I want it reported that today, in this Capitol building, we have determined to take over this state as a progressive number of Kansans join hand in hand to say enough to the bigotry, enough to the racism, enough to regressive policies, and let's move forward with a progressive Kansas. For all of those reasons, at the count of 3, at the top of your lungs, scream freedom. 1, 2, 3, free!
I'm glad that I'm not speaking but I would like to introduce one of our strongest and best allies currently in the Kansas legislature, State Representative John Carmichael from down there in Wichita. And he has been leading the charge for a number of progressive issues, but especially on helping us move a non-discrimination bill through this building. We're hoping for hearings next year, and we'll let Representative Carmichael have the microphone for a few minutes.
My friends, I have an impossible task here today. There is no way that you can follow Pedro Organaga. The finest of the state than our friend Pedro. Here at court. I have to leave you here in just a few moments because my caucus is meeting. We actually do have legislative business today and an important bill to consider for caucusing. But I appreciate you taking just a moment to hear my remarks. And my remarks are not entirely remarks of joy, because while today we celebrate with our LGBT brothers and sisters a long-fought and a hard-won victory, the battle is not over. Discrimination still prevails in our state, no matter whether it's against LGBT Kansans, no matter whether it's against people because of their race, their religion, their color, their creed, their national origin. And unfortunately, the law of the state of Kansas does not protect LGBT Kansans from discrimination in employment and public accommodations. House Bill 2323 remains in the House Judiciary Committee. I serve on that committee as the ranking member, and I am extremely hopeful that we will receive a hearing next year on that bill. But I encourage all of you, as you celebrate today, let this be a day of inspiration to go forward with the fight, because the fight is indeed not over, because it is still against LGBT Kansans is legal. It is still the policy of our governor that discrimination against LGBT Kansans in state employment is legal. It is still the policy of the state of Kansas that LGBT married couples do not receive the same tax benefits that my wife and I receive as a straight couple. And it's still the law of the state of Kansas that discrimination is permitted against LGBT Kansans. I meant to also add that discrimination in benefits is also permitted in this state. So while we celebrate today, let the court's decision and those of us here go forward and continue the fight, because the battle is not yet won. But with your help, it will soon be won in our state. Thank you.
You are anti-fashion. Okay. Come on. I don't know where my glasses are, and I cannot read my Urban apples right here.
How's everybody doing? Let me try this again. How's everybody doing? That's the wrong answer. Even though we've seen some great things happen in the past couple of days, we should still be angry, y'all. We should still be upset, right? I'm not feeling good. I'm upset because taxes are going up, food prices are going up, property taxes are going up, voter rights are under assault, immigrant families are being torn apart, racial profiling is sanctioned by the state, schools are being closed, folks are dying because our legislators choose American for prosperity, politics over people, they choose talent over education, they choose lobbyists over liberty and choose who you love, over women's rights and to make their own medical decisions with their doctors. I'm upset, y'all. I just learned a few days ago that my baby girl had a medical issue that for a 14-year-old is scary to learn. But thank God we have insurance, because if we didn't, we would go through. So I'm mad about all the people that we serve that are struggling to make these speeches because they have to pray that they don't get sick. I'm mad about it, y'all. That politicians have the audacity to look at the poor Kansas and others that they look at them that they're not our family. These are our family members that are suffering. Folks who call themselves Christians have forgotten that the Bible tells us that the second commandment is like unto you. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. These things on all the laws and the property. If you can't live on $25 a day, how do you create a law for your neighbor to live on $25 a day? If you can love and marry who you want to, how can you discriminate against other folks who want to love and marry who they want to? If you can get covered and take care of what everybody else gets covered and health care. It doesn't sound too neighborly. Our legislators just don't sound too neighborly good. The theme is right. We are in a struggle to bring equality and dignity to every Kansan. We should not be happy until every person, every child, every man, every woman can be what they want to be, as long as they have big enough dreams to be. Amen? I'm upset because I still believe in the Kansas way. And I'm tired of those that trample on that great legacy of progressive Kansas. From Brown versus Board of Ed to Dwight Eisenhower, who signed the Civil Rights Act in 1957, to Kansas becomes the first U.S. state to hold the statewide referendum on women's suffrage, to the DACA sit-in, the right to open up public accommodations. That is the Kansas way. Yes. There are no big eyes and little U's in our previous cycle. We take care of our neighbors. The Kansas way is that everybody is somebody. So if we're going to bring back the Kansas way, we have to channel our righteous indignation and organize. to register voters for your neighbor who has lost their job, being factory closed in Hutchinson. Everyone here should be upset enough to knock on your neighbor's door and for those who were detained in Western Kansas. We should be so upset we should be writing the letter for our children that are stuck in poverty in Wichita and the Northeast community, who have been unemployed for the last years. We need to do it for our neighbor's child and because of the schools that have been closed down. Anybody here ready to fight for your neighbor? Anybody here ready to fight for your neighbor? Yeah. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight because that's the Kansas way. Anybody here ready to go? Anybody here fired up? Everybody ready to go? Let's get ready. All right. That's it. That's it.
A lot of us wouldn't be where we are in the struggle for equality, struggle for freedom, struggle for free expression, the struggle to worship as we choose, to live and to love as we choose, with whom we choose. If it weren't for the efforts, the unceasing efforts of the ACLU. The ACLU of Kansas has been our partner here at Equality Kansas, and I'm sure the partner for many of the organizations represented by those of you in the room today for a very long time. We've had some successes, Equality Kansas has, and a lot of those successes would not have happened without the ACLU backing us up, keeping us on track, giving us the advice we needed when we didn't know what to do next. I am very proud to introduce the current Executive Director of the ACLU in Kansas, Micah Cooper.
There's nobody in this state who works hard for equality and dignity and tolerance. Now I thought, when this round was announced today, I thought that the best thing that was going to happen today was that the Kansas legislature was finally going to go out of session. I'm wrong about that, and we have something else to be even happier about this morning with the Supreme Court's decision. Yeah. But I'm also very, very happy that they are finally ending this session. You know, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of commentary about this year's legislative session, and a lot of it has focused on the process, how long it was, how much back and forth there was, how many late night votes there were, how much wrangling and tangling there was over the budget. But frankly, I don't care about the process. I care more about the fact that this year's session has been one long, relentless, sustained attack on equality, on dignity, on justice. Introduced this year that chipped away at our rights. 39. That's not just a number I'm picking out of the air. I'm not making it up. 39. We read them. It's depressing reading. We read them. 39 bills that that chip away at our rights more than ever before. 39. Now, I'm happy to tell you that in spite of the fact that we are more on the front lines than ever before, in spite of those 39 bills that undermine dignity and equality, only 3 got through. Only 3 got through. That's the good news. There are 3 that got through. So there are some who would be content just to look at that and say, okay, we did all right. Okay. There are some who would like to pretend that it was all just a really bad dream. There are probably some people who would like us to forget about it. Just to mosey on down the road and let this session fade into the hazy halls of history. There are some people who would like us to forget, but we who are here today are not some people. We're not going to forget it. We're not going to forget it. We cannot afford to forget, because you know what? The 36 that didn't get through this year, they're still waiting on the other side. They're going to come back next year. There are going to be even more attacks next year. And so we can't afford to forget. We can't afford to forget. And we will not forget that there were some people in this legislature who tried to stomp out free speech and robust debate. There were some people who tried to persecute and punish Representative Valdenia Winn just for having the unlitigated law. Which tells you that they have never seen Representative Winn in action. Because anyone who has seen her would know she's not going to be cowed, she's not going to be intimidated, she's not going to be silenced. And hurt somebody's feelings. But my grandfather grew up in Louisiana, and he used to have a saying, the hit dog hollers. What does that mean? It means if you throw a stone into a pack of dogs, the one that got hit is the one that cries out and complains. The hit dog hollers. So I'm sorry if she hurt your feelings, but the hit dogs holler. What she said, leave aside the fact, the fact that it should not surprise anyone to learn that racism is still alive and well in Kansas and in this country. Focus for the moment that they tried to stop her from just expressing an opinion. And if that's not a violation of the First Amendment, I don't know what is. But we also cannot forget that this year they tried to pass a new law that would have guaranteed the right to public funding for discrimination. They tried to pass a law that said that religious student groups wouldn't have to follow the same rules as everybody else, wouldn't have to follow non-discrimination policies, but could exclude anybody they wanted to. People of color, women, LGBT students, individuals with disabilities, anyone. And still be entitled to public funding for it. We're not going to forget that. No. We're not going to forget that this year they tried to take away the rights of immigrant students, say that they don't have a right to pursue their dreams. They tried to take away their ability to access education, despite the fact that they live here and are Kansans through and through. Yep. We're not going to forget that. We're not going to forget that after the governor rescinded the executive order that gives protection to LGBT state employees, they couldn't even find the time to talk about it in the legislature. They couldn't even find the time to give a hearing to the bill that would have put non-discrimination back into the law. That's right. We're not going to forget about it. They want us to forget. They want us to forget that at a time when Ferguson and Staten Island Oklahoma have shown the value of police body cameras, that there were some people in this building who wanted to close off that footage from public access forever. From anyone, ever. When we know that police body cameras help stop crime, help promote racial justice. They want us to forget that. But we're not going to forget it. We're not going to forget because we can't afford to. We can't afford to. It's coming back next year, and our ability to stop these attacks on equality, on dignity, on freedom, on justice, they all start today. And they start with us lifting our voices, refusing to be silenced today or tomorrow, or the day after that, or the day after that, or the day after that, or the day after that. They used to sing a song that said, just like a tree that's planted by the water, we shall not be moved. And we have to say the same thing today. When it comes to defending equality and dignity and freedom, we shall not be moved. But talking about it, we shall not be moved. The law of the land and the lived reality, we shall not be moved. And until the constitutional rights that belong to all of us are defended in every time, in every place, every day, in every way, for every person in this state, we shall not be moved.
When I first started working in this building 10 years ago, I didn't need arms this long to read, and I forgot my reading glasses. I'm now going to introduce somebody who stands up for the rights of women every day. Laura McQuaid of Planned Parenthood is reasonably new to Kansas and into running the Planned Parenthood here in our state. But we've had a long partnership with Planned Parenthood, hugely based around sex education and reproductive health, which are, they're the main focus. And so, without a lot of long introduction, if I can introduce the CEO of Planned Parenthood, Kansas and Western Missouri, Laura McQuaid.
Warm welcome, not only today, but for the incredibly warm welcome that everyone in Kansas has shown a New York City girl who relocated here just 11 months ago to join the fight that so many of you have been fighting for so many years. I couldn't be prouder to have accepted this invitation from Tom Witt and Sandra Mead to be part of this rally today. And to be honest, it's the one I'm most honored to have received since I've come here, and I've been in some pretty great company, and I'm so thrilled to be included in this conversation today. So thank you. I think sometimes we lose sight of the commonalities of our fight for dignity and equality in Kansas, in Missouri, and across the country. Our opponents would have us say that these are siloed issues, that marriage equality, racial equality, gender equality, access to universal health care are separate and individual issues. But each of us in this room today know that they are not. And as we stand together, we stand stronger for those who would come to take our rights away from us and block access to the fundamental rights and freedoms that are guaranteed in the Constitution of both Kansas and New Hampshire. I do want to talk a little bit about the fights that are still ahead of us, but my mom said to me a long time ago, she said, days of great victory are few and far between. And when you have them, and when you have two of them in a row, you need to stop. And you need to take a breath, and you need to enjoy the beauty of the moment, the beauty of the success, because it's days like yesterday and days like today that will give us the power, the energy, the passion, and the commitment to continue to fight for all that we need to continue to fight for. So please give each and every one of yourselves a round of applause for your commitment. Before coming to Kansas, I was unfortunately keenly aware of the Brownback administration's hostility to women's rights, to universal health care, and the dignity of people who do not look or think as he does. But frankly, knowing the protections that were in place for LGBT workers in Kansas, combined with the overwhelmingly positive trend toward openness and inclusion that's underway in this country, and was just enshrined in constitutional law for all ways and for every state in the union, I was shocked earlier this year when Governor Brownback rescinded protections for LGBT state workers. And we ask ourselves, for what other reasons other than bias and fear would anyone carry out such a proactive measure? In our past, here and often across the country, Planned Parenthood has limited their focus to the issues that are cornerstone to our mission. But the time for limited vision and siloed movements is over, and I think each and every one of us know that here today. And so I'm proud of There's too much at stake for so many communities in Kansas, and we cannot hope to support and work to transform the lives of all Kansans if we don't work together. Kansas must value and promote the well-being and prosperity of all their citizens, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, race, or religion. LGBT rights, reproductive rights, religious freedom, racial equality, they stem from the same values of the dignity and autonomy of the individual and societal openness and inclusion. Groups that attack the rights of the individual based upon sexual orientation are the same that attack the rights of women to make their own decisions about their own lives, fully participate in society, and access all reproductive health care, including contraception and abortion, which are fully legal and safe in this country. We will work towards all that. Attacks on reproductive rights and LGBT rights in Kansas have been on the rise. Last year saw the introduction of House Bill 2453, which would have allowed the denial of services to anyone by any entity, public or private, based on their sexual orientation. Thanks to the national backlash generated by Equality Kansas and its allies, and each and every one of you in this room, that bill was unsuccessful. But this year, Governor Brownback instructed his administration to discourage state judges from recognizing same-sex marriages despite a court ruling mandating marriage equality. Well, Governor Brownback, today and yesterday are just not your day. By the United States Supreme Court, as well as courts right here in Kansas, that the are not cornerstone values. People need access to affordable, quality health care. The Supreme Court said so, and it'll stay the law of the land. All citizens of the United States have the right to select the partner with whom they'd like to go through life and create the family of their choosing. The Supreme Court said today that is the fundamental constitutional right of all Americans in Kansas and across the country. And yesterday, right here in Shawnee County, right here at home, the Kansas court said you cannot pass unconstitutional legislation that would limit a woman's ability to access safe, constitutional abortion care. And again, I'm a girl from New York City. I didn't know really what to expect. You know, and when the first second trimester abortion ban in the country was passed into law here, despite the fact that 95% of all second trimester abortion is performed under this method, and if you don't believe it, don't take my word. I'm talking about the American Medical Association, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and the World Health Organization. So apparently politicians, a certain group of politicians here in Kansas, think they know better than the entire community of medical experts and practitioners, not only in the U.S., but across the world. It's time for us to stop being dictated to by a narrow group of extremists who would have us believe that all citizens of Kansas believe as they do. And it is simply untrue, and now the law has recognized that not only is it untrue, but it is illegal. As a new member of your community, but I want to be clear what Planned Parenthood is committed to. We are committed to ensuring that the fundamental rights of all Kansans are not only respected, but promoted. Because if you have a right, but you have no access to that right, it is no right at all. Rights and exposing all extreme measures aimed at denying women in all Kansans their autonomy and their health. We are also committed to being here to support and provide compassionate, high-quality, culturally competent care for people of every gender identity and sexual orientation, no matter what attacks and bogus legislation Governor Brownback and his colleagues put in front of us. We are committed to providing sex-positive, evidence-based sex education that recognizes the full spectrum of gender identity and sexual orientation and supports young people coming into their identities and orientations for the first time. And most importantly, we are committed and proud to stand with Equality Kansas today, an incredibly proud day, and in the future as we fight for equality and dignity in Kansas and to take back the state that you love and I have come to love over the last 11 months. Thank you again for including me and Planned Parenthood in this event. I look forward to an incredibly strong partnership as we move forward to promote the values that each of us believe in. Thank you so much.
I know we're running a little long. I understand the House is going to go into session at 11, but trust me, from somebody who has sat in those galleries for endless hours, this is a lot more exciting. We've got two more speakers, and then I'm going to tease you here with some email I just got. Back in 2007, we had an executive order signed that banned discrimination for state employees based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. And I just got an email from the person that had signed that order. The name's Abilius, ring a bell in this name. Governor Abilius just sent us an email that she would like me to read to you. But I'm not going to read it until the other two speakers have had a chance to go through it. That's how I am, folks. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Moby Reaver. He is the Executive Director of Kansas Integrated Power for Life. He is a faith leader for renewable energy, and I'm proud to call my friends. Glad to see him here today.
Thank you. So I'm a climate change activist, a clean energy activist, and I've spent the last 3 years working on a renewable portfolio standard issue. So most of you know what that is. So after 3 years of fighting it, we actually ended up losing it this year. But it had become a bit of a grind. It's really interesting that the legislators and the heads of the committees in the state, in the Senate, and in the House were doing all they could to destroy the wind industry in Kansas. It's very strange. It's like Vermont's governor trying to destroy the maple syrup industry. It's like Georgia's governor trying to destroy the peach industry. Could you imagine a government of Kansas not doing everything it could to promote and attract wind energy to this state? Yet that's the situation that we're in. Here in Newcastle, we don't want any more coal. We don't want to develop our coal industry. But there's something you can get involved in right now. I'm going to give a little plug for something. How many people are Westar customers? So Westar has a rate case coming up, which they're trying to use to destroy solar as energy efficiency by putting a fixed price on it. If you're interested in this, get involved at Kansas IPM, kansasipm.org. There's a lot of information. There's going to be a hearing in July. We really need people to fill the room to stop Westar from destroying solar power. Because you know what? I got a secret for you. Not often stated in this building. Climate change is real. The industry that worked on a lot of this year was a separate clause to undercut the EPA's ability under the Clean Power Plan. And I sat in hearings for weeks and weeks watching different people present about how dangerous this thing was. And finally I got up and said, you know, it's not about the Clean Power Plan, it's about climate change. And Olson ran me off. So basically he said, you got a minute left. Because I was breaking the code. Like you can talk about clean energy, Obama, and EPA, but you can't talk about climate change. All right? Olson is the guy on the floor of the Senate last year. He said he opposed the RPS because wind turbines were ugly. And this year, when the bill to interfere with the Clean Power Plan finally passed, and the governor signed it, Senator Olson was asked whether he believes carbon dioxide causes climate change, and he said no. So that's what we're dealing with. But it's not just climate change. It's Medicaid expansion, it's budget and taxes, it's reproductive health, it's voting rights, it's marriage equality, it's guns. How many major issues is the radical conservative majority in the Kansas legislature on the wrong side? Let me ask you a question. Do tax cuts raise revenue? No. Is it fair to raise sales taxes on everybody to pay for tax cuts for the rich? No. These people in this building are hostage to an ideology. It doesn't matter how many times their talking points are disproven. They just keep spouting them. Supply side economics was disproven in Reagan's first term. Here we are. There's a truth deficit here, a truth deficit. Look at yesterday. Is there anything more immoral than hoping and praying that 6 million Americans will lose their health insurance? Yet what are the quotes from our legislators? Oh, Obamacare is a failure. Oh, same BS as every other time. Let me ask you, is Obamacare a disaster? No! How many people here are on Obamacare? How many people in this room are on Obamacare? All right. Is it a disaster for you? No. Do people on public assistance go on cruises? No. Does wind power raise your electricity rates? No. Do abortion laws need to be loosened and abortions need to be tightened and gun laws loosened every single year? No. Is calling a bill racist itself racist? No. Is there voter fraud in Kansas? No. There's a truth deficit here. On the other hand, I ask you, is climate change real? Yes. Is it human cause? Yes. Should we do something about it? Yes. Should we support and expand our renewables industry? Yes. Should we expand Medicare? Yes. Should we raise the minimum wage? Yes. Should we fully fund our schools? Yes. Should we respect a woman's right to choose? Yes. Should billionaires pay their fair share? Yes. I gotta tell you, I was pretty burnt out. I left the session this year. I was really burnt out. I was in like a spiritual crisis because it was so terrible. So I actually went. I actually went to a friend of mine. I went to a spiritual teacher. He's actually a Buddhist monk, and I told him my problem, and he said, "Look what's happening. You know, you're in this building, and all these people are doing these things. But look outside. Look outside this terrarium. ACA, law of the land. Marriage equality is the law of the land. Clean power plant is soon to be the law of the land. No matter how ignorant and backward Kansas legislators are, progress is moving upward across the country." To the radical majority of the Kansas legislature, I say, you've had your fun, but it doesn't work. The dog don't hunt. Come back to reality. Accept empirical fact. Moderation is the only way to govern this state. And if these legislators won't choose sensible government, and if it won't choose care and love for the people of this state, then I hope we can have some new legislators that will. Thank you very much.
I'm a child of the 70s. Back in the 70s, overt, and in the 80s, back in the 70s and the 80s, overt and often violent discrimination against people who were openly lesbian or gay was just common and accepted. It's just what happened on a regular basis. It happened to me, it happened to my friends, it happened to tens of thousands of lesbian and gay people across this country. People lost their lives standing up for their rights. Yesterday was the anniversary of one of the most horrible hate crime attacks in LGBT history, when an upstairs bar was firebombed and over 40 LGBT people lost their lives in the fire. We have come an incredibly long way in the past 35 years. The lesbian and gay population has come an incredibly long way in the past 35 years. Unfortunately for our transgender brothers and sisters and our transgender non-binary friends and family, it's 1980. The discrimination is just incredibly horrific. I got a call from my board chair the other day. somebody went in to their doctor, a transgender woman in Johnson County went into her doctor that she had been seeing. The doctors finally looked at her and said, well, we don't treat your type here anymore. And turned this woman away because she's transgender. Transgender Americans are frequently the targets of violence and abuse and murder. Murders that the mainstream media, and I know a lot of you are in this room, there's a lot of you I consider my friends, but these are murders that just aren't getting the coverage that they deserve. They are page 14, lower right-hand corner of the inside column stories. And they need to start being front-page stories, because the violence and discrimination against our transgender brothers and sisters has to come to an end. It has to stop being 1980s. One of our newest activists in Wichita has shown a lot of courage. I think every transgender person, that first time they reveal their true identity in public and come out and walk down the street into the stores and into everybody else's lives as who they really are, that is some of the most courageous thing I can think of. I couldn't do it. But the transgender people among us do it every day, and they do it at no risks. And I'd like to introduce one of our newest activists, Alba.
As Tom said, my name is Elba Winn, and I wasn't born in Kansas. I was born in Ohio, and I found my way to the Sunflower State via my service in the United States Air Force. Service that was cut short at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita because I came out as transgender. Family members and friends alike ask me why I'm still here, why I don't move somewhere more accepting, more seating, more economically stable. They see a red state steeped in intolerance and disastrous social and economic policies. I wasn't born in Kansas, but I do consider myself a Kansan, and that is not what I see. I see a beautiful state with a diverse community of earnest, hardworking people who have been lied to and grossly misrepresented by a self-serving, childish, and closed-minded administration. On February 10th, Governor Brownback signed an executive order calling upon state agencies to step up their game when it comes to hiring, supporting, mentoring, rewarding, and recognizing both military veterans and those with disabilities for their achievements. He said his order would guarantee all Kansans the same civil rights without creating special classes of protected people. That same day, he trashed protections established in 2007 by first state employees based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And on February 10th, I asked myself, as a transgender woman and a 10-year military service veteran, does Governor Brownback support me with focused deployment and career training opportunities, or leave me to fend for myself in a system where the cards are already stacked heavily against me? And it's not just me. 41% of transgender people attempt suicide. 41%. But we do not try to kill ourselves because we are mentally ill, or confused, or pedophiles, or any other number of half-baked myths. It's because transgender people are the most highly discriminated against community in Kansas and America today, and the overwhelming majority of this discrimination is perfectly legal. Nationwide, 78% of transgender and gender non-conforming students in 2012 report having experienced harassment, including expulsion, for being who they are. Nearly half of the transgender community holds a college degree, but we are twice as likely to be unemployed than non-transgender people, and workplace harassment is nearly universal for those of us who do manage to keep our jobs once we begin living authentically. Transgender people and their families are 4 times more likely than our non-transgender counterparts to be surviving on a budget of less than $10,000 a year, and instances of extreme poverty skyrocket tenfold for transgender people of color. Kansas has no law protecting our students from bullying based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. Kansas has no laws protecting transgender people from being fired, or from losing our homes, from being denied loans, or protecting us from harassment and violence in public restrooms simply because of who we are. Kansas has no hate crime law by which to prosecute those who would assault, rape, and murder us simply because we are transgender. And despite this, I'm not here to elicit your sympathy or sympathy. I'm here because I refuse to be a silent statistic. I'm here because I don't want to see my friends and loved ones who are transgender become statistics. I'm here because students should never be bullied and then blamed for being themselves. I'm here because someone should never be told, we don't serve your kind here. I'm here because a person should never be treated as a second-class citizen because they don't fit neatly inside someone else's narrow-minded box of acceptability. I'm here because as Kansans and as transgender people, we deserve and we demand better. Transgender rights are human rights, and while Governor Brownback may say that his policies are designed to foster equality for all Kansans without creating special rights for some, I say I'm not asking for special rights, but only to be afforded the same opportunities and protections that all Kansans deserve. I say it's time our elected officials represent and uphold the welfare of all Kansans, and not just those that they find agreeable, convenient, and advantageous. I say it's time for Kansas to once again be a trailblazer in the struggle for human rights. Yes. Now let's say it.
There are 2 very memorable events that I've had in this town. When the marriage ban passed its final vote in the House on February 2nd, 2005, this building was filled with silence. The silence like I've never heard in here before, and heard only once since. No one said a word. No one. Not the people who voted for that piece of crap bill, and not the people against whom it was targeted. This building is full of silence. And I've seen that once since then. On a day of meeting session last year, late at night, when this legislature saw fit to strip every teacher in the state of Kansas of their rights to due process. Where any teacher that speaks their mind can now be fired without due process. The freedom of inquiry, the freedom of knowledge is now under threat, under attack. And the first victims are going to be our public school teachers. How many red shirts are in here today? Stand up, red shirts. When that bill passed last year, that was the second time I heard that deafening silence. No one said a word. No one on the House floor, no one in the hallways, no one in the conference rooms. This building was silent while everybody contemplated what had just happened. And in silence, I will hold this up made by a child who is here today. And now, as promised, a message from Governor Sebelius. I join you in celebrating today's wonderful victory for marriage equality nationwide. Throughout my career as a state legislator, insurance commissioner, governor, and as a member of President Obama's cabinet, I have been a proud LGBTQ ally working to eliminate discrimination and promote opportunity. I am extraordinarily proud that with today's court decision making marriage equality the law of the land, our nation has taken a great leap forward. It's a decision that warrants jubilation. But our work in this region and across the country is not over. In Kansas, Governor Sam Brownback recently rescinded an executive order I issued as governor in 2007 that prohibited discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in the state's hiring and employment practices. It was clearly the right thing for our state and for Kansans. But now, even though it is terrific that in Kansas and Missouri people will be able to legally marry the person they love, a state worker could be fired for displaying a wedding photo on his or her desk. It bewilders me why Sam Brownback cannot see that it is bad for Kansas. But apparently he can't. And with states like Indiana and Arkansas trying to pass discriminatory legislation, we must acknowledge that the battle is not over. Our friends and family, our communities, and our country deserve our continuing dedication to equality under the law, to promoting lasting loving relationships, and to valuing all families. So as we celebrate this amazing moment in history, please join me in rededicating yourselves to the effort to ensure that these real family values prevail everywhere. Kathleen Sebelius. Governor Brownback has also released a statement regarding this morning's Supreme Court ruling. But I will not pollute this room with that man's words. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. For late arrivals, I'm Tom Litt. I'm the Executive Director of Equality Kansas. I get paid to come up into this building and give these people grief, and it's a job I do not give up for anything in this world. But now I must give up this microphone one last time to close out our event here today in remembrance of IFC.
A couple of months ago, the governor of this state invited religious leaders to Cedar Crest, and he expressed to us his concern and tasked us to marry as many people as we can. Yeah! His argument was that Kansas economy is suffering because we have too many singles, and singles don't spend money in the economy, but families do. I was a guest in the House, and so I bit my tongue. I thought of all the policies that are responsible for the negative population development, and all the reasons why people struggle to stay married, because they struggle to find work, and because they're discriminated against in so many ways. Before I give you my response to the governor's request, let me just say that I'm a pastor of the First Congregational Church here in Topeka. And Tom, when you mentioned Massachusetts and not wanting to go back there, I felt it incumbent upon me to say that Congregationalists came to Kansas from Massachusetts for one reason and one reason only: to fight slavery and to fight the notion that big corporations, once called plantations, are more important than people. Believe in the separation of church and state. If I remember my constitutional history correctly, it was Thomas Hooker, a congregational minister in Connecticut, who wrote the first Constitution. It had model character for the Constitution of the state of Virginia, which had model character for the United States Constitution. Why were Congregationalists so interested in the constitutions? Because of Reformed Christian theology and its emphasis on the concept of covenant. You think of Locke, Hobbes, Rousseau. They were all raised in the congregational Reformed tradition, and they took those ideas and did not proclaim rights for Reformed Christians, but they translated them into concepts that were supposed to be valid for all people. This is really important to understand. The congregational churches that came together with Christian churches, German evangelical churches, and Swiss Reformed churches to form the United Church of Christ in 1957, it became very important to us to say that theologically, love is first and foremost about justice. Important as those are. We celebrate today the Supreme Court decision that gives members of the LGBT community the same rights as everyone else, that acknowledges us all as Americans standing equally under the law. This is very important. And there are a myriad of Christians that stand by as people claim this is a Christian nation. I can only laugh at that. There was a time when Christians foremost realized that everyone being equal before the law was the best thing for their own faith. And if you think of the crimes and sins of Christianity, you know that this is true, and why everyone, Congregationalists, the Baptists, you name it, believed that it was important that we all be equal before the law, that we have the freedom to worship as we wish, but as citizens equal under one Constitution. Christians have been silent for too long in general when it comes to justice issues, and it is my commitment to you and everyone who claims to be a Christian to invite them into coalitions that fight for equality for all people, because I think that is divine will. And I think it's also what Jesus of Nazareth represented when he went out to the marginalized, not asking the question how they can become better people, but asking the question what kind of community needs to arise so that all people have a seat at the table. Not in Cedar Crest, but in this house, the people's house. Let me respond to you by saying, I'm so darn happy that I'm going to get to invite everyone who